Hi, I'm Kirsty Gwynn. I'm the founder of Positive EQ, and today I'm going to be sharing with you three major mistakes that most people make when dealing with anxiety. So, just a few years ago, before I had studied positive psychology, I struggled with anxiety almost constantly. I didn't understand it, and I felt absolutely helpless to change it. I tried lots of different things, and none of them seemed to be working. I tried setting small goals for myself, but I often couldn't get myself to sustain it or to follow through enough. I had tried pushing myself really hard or working really hard. And of course, I had tried to change my thinking, but nothing seemed to make me feel better, or I couldn't sustain it long enough. And that made me feel really hopeless. So, these three mistakes that I'm going to share with you today are really things that I wish I had known back then. Because had I known them, I would have just felt so much more empowered. I would have known what to focus on and what would have made a real difference. So, I hope that you'll stick around to the end. And I ask you to keep an open mind for this video because some of the things that I tell you are going to be things that you've never heard before, and they might really challenge the way that you've thought anxiety and negative thinking needs to be treated. All right, so the first mistake that most people make is trying to manage their thoughts directly. Now, I know that this one can come as a big surprise. The truth is, managing your thoughts or controlling your thoughts does work. If you manage to get your thoughts under control, you are going to feel better, right? Because they definitely do perpetuate your anxiety. But it's not actually going deep enough. So, managing your thoughts is almost like trying to manage a symptom rather than getting to the cause of an illness. Or it's kind of trying to get healthy without changing, what you're putting into your body, such as your eating habits or exercise. So the real question here is what is causing your negative thinking? And that's where you need to be targeting. Now, I'll tell you what's causing your negative thinking. What's causing it is what your mind is focusing on. So I want you to think of your mind almost like a camera. I'm married to a photographer, so this is an apt metaphor. Imagine your mind as a camera, and what it sees is what it's kind of zoomed in on, what it's focusing on. Now, the human brain is naturally wired to focus on the negatives a little bit more than the positives, and this is a survival mechanism. But sometimes this response gets way too intense. And if this is true for you, you might find that you're in a situation that objectively is pretty good. You know that you should be enjoying it, but instead you see your mind kind of nitpicking and finding things that make you feel dissatisfied and discontent, or you get irritated really easily. I remember like being, in some really positive places, like on a beautiful holiday or something like that, and you're still finding things that, I'm still finding things that would like get to me or make me irritated, or I would find not good enough. And it was really hard because then you're self-critical, right? You're like, why am I having all these negative thoughts? And so the thing is that if your brain's response of focusing on the negatives has gone like, you can kind of imagine that it's like turning up the volume, that's gotten too strong and the negatives are really loud, really blown up. If we're talking the camera big picture, they're a big part of the picture. It's natural that you're going to have a lot of negative thoughts as a symptom of that. And so rather than targeting the negative thoughts, which is exhausting and really difficult, what you should rather be doing is actually training your brain to focus on different things. And when you do reprogram what your brain is focusing on, you're going to see a massive difference because your thoughts are going to automatically become more positive when your brain is zoomed out of the negatives and slightly more zoomed in on the positives to a healthy degree. So if you think about an optimist, that's generally what they're doing, right? They're like finding the bright side, finding the positive, even in a negative situation. And you can train your brain to do this. So when I say an optimist or a pessimist, these are not personality traits. These are actually ways of thinking that we can adopt and we can train our brain to adopt. All right. The second mistake that most people make is trying a method of dealing with anxiety that isn't actually proven. So I've been studying psychology for 6 years, and there was one thing I was particularly dismayed to discover, and it's that many forms of talk therapy actually don't change things long term. And so the point is that when you are choosing a method of how to deal with what you are feeling, you need to be really clear about what you want to achieve. If what you want is a space to be heard and a space to be able to talk about what you're going through, and to kind of, be more aware of that, then talk therapy can be really helpful. But if what you want is to change your thinking patterns and change the way that you react to the world in general and the way that you feel, therefore, then what you need to be doing is something that is actually tested in science and that helps you to build emotional intelligence skills that work in a positive way, right? That's why my company is called Positive EQ, because I love the idea that we can actually make broad-based changes. So think about, this is the difference between kind of going to someone. We can even talk about it in coaching. So let's say that you go to someone about a goal, they can help you to kind of fix, to make that goal happen. But if you rather go to an emotional intelligence coach, what they're going to teach you is not just that specific goal, but all the capacities that you need for successful goal achievement, such as, let's increase your self-discipline level, right? Let's give you the self-control to commit to doing something, to sit down and go make it happen. Let's give you the ability to motivate yourself so that when you feel demotivated, you're able to do something about that. And let's teach you how to turn down your fear or your anxiety response so that that stops holding you back and you stop doubting yourself so much and you're able to kind of step out of your comfort zone and make things happen. Can you see how in the first one, you might achieve the goal, yes, but the next time you're going to encounter the same difficulties and you're going to have to go and kind of work through that again too. In the second option, what's happening is that you are changing the underlying capacities, and then you can go and apply that to the goal and successfully achieve it, and you can apply it to other goals too and successfully achieve all of those. And so if your kind of goal is to really change things long term, to build positive emotional intelligence skills, then you need to be doing something that really has that focus and has been proven to do that. So two forms that have been researched really well is, number one, cognitive behavioral therapy. You've probably heard of this, and the research on CBT is really good. So in CBT, the focus is on becoming aware of your destructive thoughts and then replacing them with healthier ones. And it shows that there are pretty consistent good results as long as you keep applying the concepts ongoing. The second one is really new, and it's positive psychology. And positive psychology is only turning 20 this year. It's a very new field. What's wonderful about that is that rather than developing and then being tested later, which is what happened with traditional psychology, positive psychology has actually tested everything, put it into action, and tested it again to see if it works. So it's very scientific, and we know when not to do something, when it could cause harm, and when things, help. And so in positive psychology, the focus is on teaching you the ingredients for kind of a resilient, calm, content life, and how you can think differently and do different things that will boost your resilience and help you to live a life of high well-being where you cope with things really well and are able to bounce back from struggles. So that's obviously the type of coaching that I do, and that is the one that obviously focuses on actually changing your focus. All right. So the third thing, I see that in my notes I put number 2, but it's number 3. The third thing is my favorite point, and it is, the mistake is doing it the hard way. And I know that when I was struggling with anxiety, I really believed that working through that was going to be a really painful process, and that was kind of the only way to deal with it, if other than maybe medication, which I also saw as having side effects and not being an easy way either. So if you've ever tried to control your thoughts in the midst of feeling sad or feeling angry or anxious, you'll know that it is really hard work, and it takes motivation that I know I didn't have when I felt weighed down. So it's, here's the big problem with it being so challenging. both cognitive behavioral therapy, as I've mentioned, and positive psychology get good results, but research shows that positive psychology's results last longer than CBT's results. And I'll tell you why. It's not that either method is necessarily better than the other one. It's that positive psychology is just more fun. I'm serious. Here's the truth. As a human being, you are drawn to things that you enjoy, right? It is easier to sustain them. And when something is hard, when something is difficult, when something is exhausting, you're going to drop that habit much more easily than if something is making you feel good. And so what we find is that people who learn the positive psychology happiness habits, they want to continue them. They fall in love with them. And I can totally attest to that. I mean, I fell in love with the field so much that I started a business with it, right? But these things are fun. The habits that you integrate into your life are really, really enjoyable. I share a lot of them. I've shared over past videos, little ways that you can boost your well-being or change the way you think about things. A small one is just, for example, going out into nature is actually a small one of the happiness habits, that it's a huge de-stressor. And so think about how easy something like that is to bring into your life, to think, oh, okay, maybe I haven't, I actually do love being in nature. I do need to de-stress that way. And I'm just going to make an effort every weekend to kind of do something in a park or in your own garden or anything like that. That's fun and easy to integrate, right? So CBT, while it works, the difficulty with it is that what we see happening over time is that people struggle to keep doing it, because it is a hard process to sit down and write out your different thoughts and really face them and work through them. And so I remember when I was struggling with anxiety, but one of the things that held me back is believing that things, if I wanted to change them, I really had to go through this whole painful transformation process. And it was such a relief to realize that, in fact, there's something you can do that's really enjoyable. And you want to be able to look forward to it and to feel the progress, rather than kind of having to get worse before you get better. To be clear, positive psychology does not ignore the negatives. I definitely talk about negatives with my clients sometimes, but that's when it's relevant. And the idea in positive psychology is that absolutely negatives do serve a purpose and we don't neglect them, but it's not undoing negatives that helps us to change for the better. It's actually building positive skills. So think about the fact that maybe you find yourself being really mean to yourself or really self-critical if anything goes wrong in your life. If we can work on that and try and remove the self-criticism, or we can instead build your resilience and build your self-compassion ability, right? And that automatically is going to replace the self-criticism. So I hope that makes sense. Another example that I often give is that, for example, in relationships, rather than kind of teaching people to fight better, which is what traditional marriage counseling has done, what about teaching people to love each other better? Right? Can you see the simple shift that happens? So if you are curious to discover more, next week I am hosting a free masterclass. It's going to run Thursday and then into next week. There are 3 times, and it is called the 4-Step Scientific Framework to Overcome Negative Thinking and Anxiety. And I'm going to be talking exactly, kind of teaching you how to apply these 3 principles to change your brain's focus so that you can feel better. And it's all going to be evidence-based things, and I promise that it's going to be really fun. I hope that I'll see you there. The link is in the description of this video, so you can select a slot that suits you. And have a fantastic week. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments of the video and I'll absolutely get back to you.